All right, here we are. So let's do a little sound check to start us off.
Okay.
Yeah, just a 1, 2, 3.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. I'm ready.
Okay, I think you're good. Can we hear
All right.
everybody? Round 3. Sorry, your stretching took a little bit long. Two in M's ears. Does everybody sound good? Yes? You'll let
Are we
us know.
good? Are we
Yeah.
good? They'll let us know.
they'll always let you know. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it, and I appreciate the time. Just the time that there's a huge time difference, so the fact that Haughty is here to begin with is just shows the generosity of your spirit and kindness to want to come on and do an interview anyway, even though it's super early for you.
The pleasure is all mine. I've got lots of nerves. I told you I'm very nervous. I get nervous before any interview. I've had a couple or 2 or 3 now, but I still get nervous. And it's 9 o'clock in the morning on, I think it's Wednesday today. Is it Wednesday? I'm looking at hubby.
Oh yeah, it's Tuesday night, so it must be Wednesday over there.
Wednesday
And
morning,
also, if it helps, I have been doing this for 3.5 years, and I still get jitters before every single interview.
Okay, good. Oh, good. Thank you for normalizing that. Normalizing is good.
It is totally, yeah, no, it's 100%. Like it maybe not as bad as it used to be, but it's still there. I definitely still, what if I say the wrong thing or get quoted out of context? I'm always thinking about that. Always. So again, thank you so much for being here. And if you don't mind, oh wait, I should do an intro, fam. Come on. So hi everyone. This is Mxiety. This is the show where the goal is to make mental health information accessible to everyone. We do that by talking to mental health professionals, to other advocates such as Haughty Chicken here. We also discuss just various mental health topics, period. When we're not doing that, we play games and just in general support each other and have a wonderful, kind environment. So I am very, very honored to have you all here. I'm very, very honored to have Haughty here. So please, if you don't mind starting us off with now your introduction.
My introduction to who I am?
Yeah, just a little overview about you and your stream and why you do what you do.
Sure. I've only been streaming just gone a year, actually. My professional background is I'm a social worker, a counselor, a researcher with a master's in gender and sexuality. And about, I don't know, April, maybe before, I thought the pandemic had hit. I had just started my own private practice. I put that on hold and I thought, what am I going to do during this pandemic? And I thought, I'm going to watch some streamers. I didn't know about Twitch. I thought it was just a very toxic, not a place that I wanted to be, but I was a bit bored and I had a little look to see if there was someone like me. There was someone who played games casually that wasn't a high-end raider.
Right.
My only experience was esports and a lot of misogyny and toxicity, and it wasn't really something I was comfortable with. And I remember when I turned to my husband and said, I'm going to stream. And he nearly fell off his chair because I'm a very quiet person.
Right.
And I think I said this the other day, I've literally had 1 hour where I didn't have someone chatting with me on stream. It was that popular. It was just amazing. So I bring a combination of who I am. I'm very much who I am in real life on stream, just a very chill, and hubby is as well, chill person who has some people skills and some understanding as well of some of the issues that people have and my own lived experience and people around me and my friends and family. And literally my stream is just a place to come that is safe, because you can play your games however you want to play. You'll not be judged for who you are or how you play. And it's also a safe space to come and say, I'm not okay. I'm not a believer in positive streams where everything is wonderful and you just, put on a brave face. Life is not like that. Life gives us things where we can't be brave often. And so I wanted that space and I couldn't find one. So I made one of my own. And here we are, nearly a year later. Well, just gone a year later.
Oh my gosh. And you've accomplished so much in that year.
It's been a quick year.
It's been such a good year. You work with Safe in Our World, you work with Take This, you work with Blue Microphones. This is
and
wonderful.
AMD. I got sponsored like in the 4th month. I got a phone call from California saying, could you have a Zoom call with AMD? And I said to hubby, please be with me. I don't know what to do. And so, I got sponsored with them very, very quickly and I got partnered in 3 months. And to me, that speaks to not only Twitch, but organizations seeing the value in what I do and folks like what you do. There is a space for us to normalize. We talked about normalizing before. Normalizing is so critical. in life, but especially with mental health. I think it's missing, and certainly missing in Twitch and
Yeah.
gaming.
Yeah. No, I agree. It just in
So that
gaming
was a really
and
long introduction.
overall. That it,
Yeah.
I'm interviewing you. You're supposed to talk a lot. I hate to break
Okay.
it to you, but you're going to be
Okay.
talking a lot. I know you just said
Okay.
you're very quiet, so I'm going to need you to go out on a
Alrighty.
limb
I'll
here.
open up.
Dino says I love her already. I know she's very lovable. So and I want to dive right into this concept of acceptance because, like
Yeah.
you said, you couldn't find that space on Twitch, and so you
Mm.
set out to make it yourself. And
Yes. Yes.
I guess, what does acceptance mean to you, right? Because a lot of people will argue, like, well, acceptance means you have to accept everybody's opinion and thought, and
Mm. Mm. Mm.
that's
Mm. Mm.
not, yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
what does
No.
acceptance
No.
mean to
No.
you and being
No.
accepting?
It stemmed from, I think, from my own position when I started streaming. I was fearful because at first I wasn't even going to have a webcam. I thought, I'm an older woman. I don't want to be judged. I immediately assumed that I would be judged. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, I am judged. But I thought, okay, how am I going to project that it's okay to be who you are? Our motto is be kind to be you.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those two things. But the be you part of it was, for me, if I'm not comfortable in my own skin and who I am, how can I say to other people, try to be comfortable with who you are? We accept you for who you are. And so we accept people who are unique. We accept people for exactly who they are, but we do not accept, homophobia, racism, etc., etc. We do not accept toxicity. We do not accept unkindness. And so, for me, acceptance is you don't judge a person unkindly. You don't deliberately go out of your way to make that person feel uncomfortable in any space. So that's what acceptance is to me, and that's what we try to promote in our channel, as well as promoting the space itself. Because you hear some streamers say, "Oh, it's a safe space over here." It's okay to say that, but do you act that way?
Mm-hmm.
Acceptance is walking the walk, talking the talk. Acceptance is your language. We had a conversation recently. A word was said during a stream which seemed quite innocuous, and years ago it would have been, but now it is harmful. It's a harmful word to people. And so my mods immediately deleted it. I apologized for the use and said, thank you for telling us. I have a very long list of words and phrases that are banned in
Mm-hmm.
my chat, which is available to anyone if they want it.
Mm-hmm. I
And it was
might take you
immediately
up on
added.
that.
It's quite a list, but it's that dynamic understanding that acceptance, you have to keep learning.
Mm-hmm.
Acceptance and inclusivity is not a point from A to B. It's got to be open ended because even something simple as language is dynamic. And
Mm-hmm.
one day you could say a word that is fine, and the next day you were told, and you need to listen. You are told that is offensive to me, that is offensive to my community, or insert a person here.
Yeah.
So for me, acceptance also includes dynamically being open to learning and being gracious, being gracious that a person with lived experience is respecting you enough to say, no, that's not acceptable to me. That is not acceptable. And then if they explain to you even better, I'll be gracious for that learning.
Yes,
That's what acceptance
be
is as well.
grateful. I mean, yeah, be
Yes,
humble for the fact
yes.
that this person
Mm,
took it. It takes a lot of vulnerability to correct someone. People talk
yes.
about the vulnerability it takes to, apologize, but correcting
Mm, mm.
someone also takes a lot, I think.
Absolutely, it does. I put a post up on social media. We talk about mistakes, and social media is not forgiving for
Mm-mm.
human imperfection.
Mm-hmm.
And people are very quick to jump on you if you make an error.
Mm-hmm.
And I posted something the other day, and it was very, very late. It was a graphic. It wasn't my graphic, but there was something in the corner that I didn't see,
Mm-hmm.
that many people didn't like. And
Mm-hmm.
someone made a post about it and said, "Did you see that there's And there are certain things I don't post about because I don't infringe on other people's beliefs per se,
Sure,
especially when it
sure,
comes to faith and what have you.
sure.
That's a personal thing. This
Mm-hmm.
had something to do with faith in there. And so I removed it because that's not something that that's a personal choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't tell anyone to believe in what. Anyway, but someone contacted me privately and said, look, I'm really sorry. I didn't know whether to tell you. They did. They told me about that
Mm-hmm.
little thing that I missed. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I put
Mm-hmm.
a tweet out about don't tweet when you're tired and please proofread. And they apologized profusely for pointing it out to me. And I said, please do not apologize. This is how I learn. This is how I become aware of things so that next time I'll know to proofread or see if there's any hidden little things in graphics,
Yeah, look a
especially.
little
That's
bit
tip.
extra. But it's
Yeah.
also okay that you miss that. Like that's
Yes.
part of
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm,
I mean, so I have ADHD, so
mm,
very
mm.
often I overlook things that seem so obvious and glaring to other people.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's because my brain makes decisions before I can even register them sometimes.
Mhm,
Like
mhm. Yeah,
that's just how it is. And that's
yeah.
not in any way an excuse. That is me explaining this is how my brain works. And that's
Yes.
why the mistake could happen. But
Mm,
then
mm.
give me the opportunity to fix it, and I would
Yes.
absolutely love to have to have that
Mm,
honor to be able
mm.
to adjust.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to miss stuff again,
It
especially
is.
when you're
It is.
tired and all of
But I was
that.
grateful to them. I wanted them to know it's okay to let me know these things.
Yes.
Please don't hesitate to
Yeah.
let me know. And my community know that as well. Let us know if something is said. Let us know there was, often people will say to me, I don't like what that person just said. Or now they're so comfortable that they'll say to a new person, we don't say that here. That is
Hmm.
not acceptable here,
Hmm.
which is wonderful. It's
Yeah.
really wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. I love that so much. So, what is I guess this sounds like the hallmark of your community, right? Like this is what
Mm.
you've built your entire
Yes.
community
Mm,
around, being
mm, mm,
accepting.
mm,
And I
mm.
guess how do new people find you, and how do they feel when they find you, what is that adjustment when people see someone who is, kind like you are and accepting and
Um,
yeah.
They're surprised. A lot of people find me in different ways. For a long time, I was on BattleNet, which is the Blizzard launcher for their games.
Hmm.
I've been on there for months and months, largely on the
Hmm.
weekend. And when I was first on there, I got a lot of trolls from there, sadly.
Aw.
And I was warned by Blizzard that that could be the case.
Hmm.
And so that brought a great influx of trolls and nasty folk. I do have an
Hmm.
amazing the Coop Squad. They're called my mods. They're called the Coop
Oh,
Squad.
the coop because they're
The
chickens.
Coop-
Oh my
yeah.
goodness. Okay. Oh, that's
And,
great.
and they're rather wonderful. But I get a lot of people from recommendations now, and usually they'll land in the community and they tell me later that they've lurked for a little bit, but they're astounded not just with how chill it is, because there's a lot of chill streamers out there, but how wonderful the community are. And that pleases me more than anything. People say, "Oh, you've done so well," and I said, "But look at my community." And recently, I was interviewed, and they said, "What would you say to people who want to come and find you?" And I say, "Come and find my community," because they lift each other up. The people in my community, I come to join them. I don't come to turn on the stream and say, "Okay, come follow me." I come to be with them because they're remarkable people. They're so
Oh.
incredibly unique in their own way because we have such an inclusive and safe space because of how we behave. And that's key, getting back to what I said before. You can say you're safe, but if you don't behave in a safe way, if you don't act immediately against people who are unkind or toxic, etc., then that's not safe. So for me, it's their delight at finding people who are like-minded. Oh, I've been looking for a community like this. I've been looking for someone who insert any, sort of identity like this. And at first I thought it'd just be older gamers would come and hang out with me. No, we have all sorts of people. So usually it's delight and surprise, and then they're pleased. And then I say, "Oh, and do you know that there's other streamers like me?" Because there are now more streamers. And I was talking to Frasley the other day, and I said to her, we refer to it as this wave of kindness coming across Twitch, which we think is wonderful and certainly overdue. I think it's lovely,
Yes,
but
I
you've got
agree.
to keep at it though, because you also get attention, as I said, from trolls who don't like you there and
Yep.
will go out of their way to disrupt that,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
But we're onto that. Mm,
Yeah. But we're ahead of it, so
mm,
that's good.
mm,
Yeah.
mm.
So I guess ageism is a question that comes up a lot. I'm assuming trolls. This would be the first thing, right? Like trolls come
Yes.
into my
Yeah.
stream and they go, "Oh, you got a big nose." I'm sure they come
Yeah.
into your stream and
Yes.
go, "Well, you're not 20 something," you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess like how do you feel about that, and how do you make sure that it's an accepting space for that, and how do you get
Hmm.
past that? And again, you said that that was something that you expected when you started streaming and you got so
Yes.
much more positive things from it. So
Mm, mm,
I
mm.
would love to just address that.
I think a lot of streamers, I suspect, don't think about ageism. Ageism is very much a form of silent discrimination, and especially with the most streamers and gamers being, or particularly streamers being a certain age
Hmm.
demographic, ageism is not something that they're aware of. But ageism results in very much a stereotype of what an older person is and what they're capable of doing. And so to see someone my age, I'll be 60 next year, to see someone my age doing this, is a bit of a target for trolls, especially. And
Mm.
it can be something as subtle as coming in and criticizing that I don't know what I'm doing, or let me show you how to do that,
Uh-huh.
or why don't you do Alt F4? That's a common one. Or how long have you? When did you discover computers? Or when? Oh, so the one that makes me smile, and I know it doesn't come from a malicious place, but if I wish I had $1, is oh, how lovely to see older folk into gaming. And I think, oh,
You
pet.
think
I've
that's a
been,
compliment?
I've been doing this since I was 12 when the original, Pong came out on the television, the tennis game, what have you. But usually that's not a malicious thing. That's just, oh, how lovely. But the more malicious ones, and one of these resulted in dreadful threats of violence, and it was a
Oh.
person it was an Australian person actually, and I knew that, and they followed me into World of Warcraft, and I got Blizzard onto them, and they were banned and what have you. And his anger was basically that an older person was taking the rightful place of a younger person. He was very, very angry.
Oh
I'll say they
no.
because I don't know that I won't gender them. They were very angry that I was on BattleNet. They were very angry that I was streaming when I was obviously financially secure. I'm looking
Mm.
like that because where's that? Uh, how dare I be in the place of the young person? So that's probably one of the worst sort of exhibitions
Wow.
of ageism I've seen. But usually it's when you think about ageism, it's also how, and I understand why gaming is represented as it is, and streaming with esports and younger people. But I did a quick look at the stats last night, and it's 41% of gamers are now over 34. 41%.
Oh,
And 15% are over 50. So when
that
you
makes
think
sense.
about, yeah, and when you think about where the disposable income is, and where people are going to be spending their money, and buying games and peripherals and what have you, 41% over 34, that's a lot of older gamers. There's quite a few of us. And so I'd like to think that in the future, gaming, industry, etc., and organizations around gaming and streaming will start to consider that. We'll start to consider our demographic.
Mhm.
And that's something that I'm very much pushing. Yes, okay, I'm probably a little bit in this end of the scale in terms of age. But if 41% of us are over 34, that's a big chunk that perhaps might need to be considered in terms of branding, in
Yep.
terms of consideration for development of,
Yep.
of what our needs are, even in terms of gaming. There's a lot of talk about, for example, World of Warcraft, and it's really difficult high end now, raiding and Mythic Plus. But for a lot of folk, they're not interested in that. Life has different challenges. You're
Mhm.
doing different things, and you may not necessarily have those physical skills either. So, that's why my community is very much about, we're not going to judge how you play. If you just want to play casually now, that's okay. Because
Mhm.
for a lot of streamers, their gaming habits change. And for a lot of us that
Yes.
are in the older bracket, where's that safe space? And I keep using that safe because it's important. Where's that space for us to go? Where are we represented in gaming? Not just on Twitch, but in game development.
Mhm.
When was the last time an older person was asked to review a game? When was the
Right.
last person, an older person, or our demographic was considered in that space? So that's what I think about when I think about ageism, and how it can be sort of silently under the radar, but when you're at this age, you're very aware of it. Mm,
Yeah. That's,
mm,
I mean, like exactly like you said, that's not something that I consider. Like it
mm,
just there has been, believe it or not, even like me being 30, people have made comments that like either I look too young or I look older, and so like I've heard, but I'm sure not at not at the rate that you experience it, and so
mm,
I just
mm,
thank you for sharing that,
mm,
very, very different insight. That's not common. And
mm,
thank you
mm.
for opening that space. And somebody in chat made a really, really good point that like there's also a lot of money, like for marketing.
Yes,
There's a
yes.
lot of money to be
Mm,
made for
mm,
people
mm.
who are later in their life and they're more
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
more
yeah,
financially secure and all
yeah,
of that.
yeah.
And wow. Yeah, but the anger that comes from some people, and it's
Mm.
all, it's obviously misplaced from somewhere else, but it's
Well, yes,
unfortunate.
yeah, and usually that's the case with trolls.
Yeah.
They're angry long before they get to you.
Right.
Mm,
Oh,
mm,
I know that's like I like that. Yeah, they're angry
mm.
long before they get to you.
It is
That's
true. It
yeah.
is true.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. Do you find um so sorry, I'm now like flustered and taken aback a little bit. But so these relationships that you formed with your community, and you kind of
Mm,
mentioned earlier, you said that your community kind of is its own thing, and like come and meet
yes,
my community. But I
yes,
actually want to ask, do you have a Discord?
yes, we do.
Oh my
We do.
gosh, that's
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah,
Okay, I
yeah.
gotta get that link from you later too.
Okay.
But yeah, so from your community, when people connect with each other and they're connecting with you, the
Mm,
concept of parasocial relationships comes up a lot
yes,
and
yes,
how we
yes.
use them. And
Hmm.
not to speak, I guess, too plainly, but there are cases where from both sides that relationship is taken advantage of.
Mm,
And just
mm, mm,
having those boundaries is huge. And so I want to talk
yes.
about that. And so
Hmm. Hmm.
let's just start in general. Like, how do you set boundaries as
Yeah.
someone who like, the time you have, the time that you
Hmm.
don't have, and
Hmm.
you're
Hmm.
not here to please everyone. So how do you set those boundaries, and how do you remain secure in yourself while you set them?
It's been a learning curve. When I first started streaming, I didn't know about parasocial relationships, certainly in this space. And I didn't really, and I think a lot of new streamers may fall into this trap that they fear that if they put boundaries in, they may drive people away.
Mhm.
They want to attract people to them, and they have this perception that putting in boundaries will turn people away.
Mhm.
And I say to new streamers, or if I have a Q&A about streaming, don't be fearful of that. This is for your health and theirs. It is it's a two-way street, putting in
Mhm.
boundaries. And for me now, 12 months or just over 12 months in, and we do have talks about parasocial relationships. I have like a Q&A every couple of months. And I like to bring up parasocial relationships often because I think it's important not only for viewers to understand it and the community, but for new streamers to understand the concept of what it is. Some of my boundaries are very simple. For example, and this may seem very a small thing, but it's a big thing for me.
Mhm.
If someone comes into my chat, and this again perhaps gets back to age, sometimes it's said maliciously, sometimes it's not. They'll come in and say, "Hey, you going, Granny?" or something like that.
Mhm.
Or they'll come in, they'll say, "Can I call you Granny? Can you
Mhm.
be my grandma?" And that's where it's not malicious. And sometimes it's quite heartfelt because they've not been accepted by their own grandma for whatever reason. So I'm very conscious of what is behind that comment. So I very respectfully say, "I have grandchildren and I'm their grandma, but you can call me Haughty Chicken. I hate to say welcome on in." Now that sounds very simple, but it's a boundary for me
Mhm.
because for my own family, who I keep very, very privately, I am their grandma. I'm not someone's grandma on stream. I'm Hoodie Chicken on stream, but my family is very close to me, and my relationship as their grandma is important to me. So that's just a simple little thing that I say, and my community may not even be aware that I'm saying that. But from day one, I've always said, "Mm-mm, do not call me grandma. I'm not your nan. I'm Hoodie Chicken. I'm someone else's nan, but you're welcome on in." That kind of little thing. Recently, I put a tweet out a couple of weeks ago, I think, about please do not come into my stream and call me darling. Do not call me, because I see that a lot, especially with streamers where they're called endearments. And then my husband is always, he's beside me now, but he's always on stream, etc. But even if you don't have a significant other, to have someone come in and call you an endearment that is not comfortable for you, put that out there. I appreciate that you're here. I don't appreciate you calling me that. You can call me Haughty Chicken. I always give if you say you don't want something, say what you prefer. So I always say, call me HC or call
Mhm.
me Haughty Chicken.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And so that's another simple, and I know it may not mean a lot to other people,
Mhm.
but for me who I am as a person, to have someone all the time coming in saying, "Hey, sweetheart, hey, darling." No, no, don't call me that. I'm not your sweetheart. I'm not your darling. And I have a right to put those boundaries in.
That's really
Simple
interesting.
things, and
Yeah.
you just say the phraseology to yourself of whatever the boundary is, and it becomes more natural, more comfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, and
mm, mm, mm.
and this is, I mean, a broader issue, regardless of age, regardless of anything else, with just female presenting people's
Yes,
deal
yes,
with this
yes.
a lot.
Especially,
Yeah,
especially,
yeah.
and it goes both ways. I, in my personal life, had a habit of calling, ones that are close to me, possum. Possums in Australia are very sweet-looking little animals. They're
Oh,
not like your possums in North America.
they're a
Our
little
possums are
ratty
very
on
sweet
this
little.
end. Uh-huh,
Ours are
uh-huh.
sweet little things, and so I'll often call my children or my grandchildren, "How you doing, possum?" It's just an endearment. And I realized that I referred to someone in my chat who I knew, reasonably well, as Possum. And I apologized. I said, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't be calling you a pet name that I use in real. So it goes
Mhm.
both ways.
Mhm.
And that gets back to setting boundaries. It's not just about, so we hear all the time about, streamers setting boundaries, setting healthy boundaries when I finish what I don't want to call
Mhm.
me,
Mhm.
what is not acceptable in our stream, what is not acceptable to say to my community. But it goes the other way as well. And so viewers and people within our community have a right to say, please don't refer to me this way, or I'm not comfortable with this conversation, or, don't be afraid to speak up as a member of the community, because you also have rights within that space. And I think that often gets left out, especially if it's something upsetting to you. Don't be afraid. If you can reach out, however is comfortable for you to reach out, even if it's through a mod or through someone else, to let them know that this is not comfortable for you. I think that gets forgotten a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Oh, I
mm,
love that.
mm,
I love that. Do you find so specifically when it comes to our like setting boundaries and everything and
mhm,
let's dive a little bit deeper into parasocial relationships and where the issues
mm,
I guess arise. So,
mm.
um, what is a parasocial relationships, Haughty?
So my understanding, so parasocial relationships is a term that started quite some time ago in the 50s, I believe. And back then it was more of a one-way relationship. For example, a movie star. So I don't know. I had a thing for Lee Majors in the Bionic Man. Let's just say I did. He didn't know I existed, and he didn't know I had his picture on my wall as a teenager. But I thought he was the bee's knees, and as a young girl, I thought I'd marry him one day. That's quite a parasocial relationship right there.
Oh my gosh.
I know, I'm showing my age.
I was
Um,
wait, I was devastated when I found out Elvis was no longer alive. I was
okay,
devastated. So that's I don't think that's an age thing. That's a, you know what you know
yeah.
culturally thing. Yeah.
So so I had formed as a young teen this relationship, this fantasy relationship in my mind with the Bionic Man, as it were. This is just an
Sure.
example for you. But it wasn't real. It was it was imagination, and it was one sided. He didn't know I existed, so on and so on.
Mhm.
And so that's what a parasocial relationship back then is, very much one sided. But then when you fast forward to today and we have something like this, parasocial relationships are not really one sided. And I'm going to quote Dr. Rachel Coward, who I think is absolutely wonderful with
Ooh,
her saying.
I'm not she
It,
might be in chat, but maybe not. But
I listen and read up everything that I can that she puts out.
oh,
And
she's
as she puts
wonderful.
it, it's 1.5 now. It's more 1.5. Because, for example, if you think about the viewers in our community that are watching us as we talk, they have a perception of who we are from what we present, from what we divulge about our lives, which is just a snippet. And so they formulate an idea, and that is seen as a relationship, depending on who the viewer is. But by the same token, I get a little bit back from them. So it's not one sided, because we have Discord as well, and people follow me on all these other social medias.
Mhm.
I know a little bit about them as well. I know it's not one sided. I know what, even, if someone shares with me what they're doing in their day. So there is more of a reciprocal relationship there. The issue with parasocial relationships is if the view of the friendship or the view of the relationship between the streamer and the viewer is then imagined into something else that doesn't
Mhm.
exist, then that's when it's problematic. And I hope I'm getting this correct. So, for example, you have someone who's watching a streamer and they've got quite an adoration for them, and they get distressed if their name isn't called when they're chatting, or if they're not
Mm.
streaming, they're having withdrawal symptoms from what I'm not seeing them this week. I don't know what's going on. That's a concern. That's when that imagined relationship is actually not real. And so that's when it's a problem. I hope I've got that correct.
Yeah, no, the
Mm, mm,
1.5, there's also Dr. Daniel, has
mm-hmm.
done extensive research specifically in streamer parasocial relationships, and he's been on the
Yes.
show. And from
Mm,
what I
mm,
understand that I got from him, as well as Dr. Cowart, that is
mm,
very much in line with how I
mm, mm,
understand them to be.
mm,
And
mm.
they have this like level of complication that they just didn't used to have because
Yes.
we didn't used to have the other side, right? Even like
No, no.
even YouTube, you leave a comment and comments are very just they're one-sided, right? I read it,
Mm,
I'm gonna
mm, mm,
I might not read it the way you intended for me to read it, or I might perceive it with a different
mm.
voice than you have. Like there's not the other side where
No, no.
and there's not that real-time conversation happening, and
Yes.
so
Whereas,
it's
whereas this is real. And at the same time, it was always seen to be a negative thing, whereas now research is showing that there are positive aspects to it. And we talked about my community and how they're supporting of each other. Having a connection to community, especially in the last 12,
Yes.
16, 18 months, having a connection, feeling a sense of connection has been so important for people. So it's not all negative. There's not all negative things to attribute to parasocial relationships, especially in terms of the sense of community that you can get when you come to a community, when you come to a community regularly and you get that support, you get that sense of acceptance from a community. So I don't want people to think, oh, parasocial relationships, that's all bad, because it's certainly not. It can
Mhm.
be bad if there's a parasocial relationship with a large group of people with, let's just say, a streamer who is toxic. And that's
Mhm.
when you get things like hate raids that happen
Right.
and things like that. But if you have a community and you're getting a sense of acceptance, you're getting a sense of, I feel part of this community, that can really have positive, um, you
Right.
know,
Right.
outcomes for you, especially for your mental health, especially for your well-being, and especially during COVID. Mm.
Yeah. Oh, no,
I hope
you're
I've got that right.
yeah, Doctor.
Mm.
Doctor. I'm seeing Doctor Goose, and it's really
Dr.
throwing
Goose.
me off.
Thank you, Dr. Goose.
Yes, Doctor Goose meeting. Doctor Kelly Dunlap is in chat, and she's a moderator and wonderful, and she's confirming that we're doing this right. So
Awesome.
we
Awesome.
haven't been lying to you this whole time. But yeah, so how do you? I guess how does that go both ways? Like, how do we
Mhm.
protect our how do we continue that community in a safe way? How do we protect our communities? Sometimes people overshare, and that's not healthy for
Mhm.
them, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
there are other times where we maybe I know it happened to me in my experience throughout the years. Like, there have been times where I was very heavily reliant on the community for emotional support, which was
Mm.
misplaced and should have been better placed, obviously, in professional care. And not an issue anymore, but like, they,
Mm.
ebbs and flows and waves and all of that.
Mm. Mm.
But so how do we maintain this balance? How do you specifically,
Mhm.
obviously you can speak only to your experience. How do
Yes.
you ensure that those lines don't get blurred?
Keep on top of it.
Yeah.
And I'm keep on top of it with your support crew as well. So, for example, I talk about my Coop Squad, so my moderators, which is led by my husband, and I have a wonderful array of people from, because I'm quite a global streamer as well. I have them in different countries as well. And um, for example, I was inspired. You have a command hug, I think.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
was inspired by that. So I actually have a command lift because I'm all about holding hope and lifting
Oh.
people up. So we have a lift one where we lift people up and we say, you are validated, your emotions are validated, your being here
Oh.
is validated. So we have something. So thank you for that inspiration. And
I
so
love
my
that.
moderators know when it's appropriate to use that. Also, they will know if it's appropriate to direct someone to resources straight away if I
Mhm.
miss it. Because
Mhm.
sometimes chat can get very busy.
Right.
And if need be, and this has happened a couple of times, we will ask people to go into DMs, or we'll ask them to go and sit and to ground themselves and have a cool drink and leave chat, and then we will check on them. And so it's not, I couldn't do it just by myself. My moderators are
A
always
hundred
there
percent.
and communicating with them all the time. So they know the mental health commands. They watch chat in case there's something. It doesn't happen often because of the content that I have. But it will sometimes happen. And we have a space in Discord. They know it's not a therapy space. I was chatting to you earlier. Although I'm professionally a counselor, and my code of ethics in Australia means that we cannot operate in this space. And so my community know that I cannot counsel them in this space or any other space within this sort of Twitch gaming space. I bring my skills and my personal abilities,
Sure,
but
sure.
I can't counsel them. But we have a space in Discord called Health and Wellness, and that's where the community go to basically say, I've had a really bad day. And so they take that support over there. Or we have a mem section, which is just uplifting. It's just, here, I've got you in this space. So if we can't do it here, so I'm very conscious, and you'll
I
know
might
yourself, it's
take that.
really
Wait, I
hard.
like that because we do have a
It's a,
venting space, but I like the uplift. Like, this is just, hey, I need
yeah,
a lift. Help me. I
there's a
love that.
space that it's for
I'm
mems,
taking
and
notes.
there's nothing unkind in there. And so that's where the community will go. And often my moderators will also say, if someone said, I've got a problem with bullying, what's your advice here? Or I've got some peer pressure, for example, came up recently. And so they'll take that to Discord, and others will share their experience. I keep a little eye on it. in case someone needs some resources. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just this sort of this combined support from myself and the support crew that I have to help people, direct them to the resources that they need. And they all know. And I know immediately if I've missed it. If I see the resources to take this come up, that means one of my moderators has recognized that someone needs a hand, or the lift command comes up.
I
They're
should
pretty good.
First of all, hail all moderators. That's number one.
Yes.
But I should direct you. There's actually, we installed a bot created by Mental Health Guardians, which is run by
Oh,
mental health professionals. And we installed a
right.
bot. So now you can do like exclamation anxiety and it sends you
Hmm.
resources and information about anxiety, or say exclamation
Oh,
bipolar. Yeah. So it's really,
oh.
remind me to
I will
send that
DM
info to
you.
you.
I will DM you.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's been very good, and I've seen
Mm,
people use it, specifically. Maybe no mods are around, or like it's a
mm,
weird
mm.
time, or hey, I'm really not feeling well. I need something kind of more
Yeah,
urgently, and they
yeah,
go
yeah.
they use that, and that's been
Mm.
great. Yeah.
But I think being aware too, when you talk about how do you, excuse me, how do you manage? So I have people within the community who, nuances of speech is difficult for them for various reasons, and I'm aware of that because they've shared that very kindly with me,
Hmm.
either privately in DMs or on Discord,
Hmm.
and so being aware of the conversations. You can't be on top of everything, but if someone says something and I'll think, okay, I know there's going to be people in my community that won't understand that. They won't get the nuance. They won't get the sarcasm. Or, they've been, Nightbot has been a poop and banned them for a reason. And I know that will upset them, that they've done something wrong. And so I think it's being aware of language in your community, of how that can be misinterpreted or not interpreted at all. It's just putting that little bit of extra effort, because not everyone is the same and not everyone will get what's going on, and they could be impacted by that. You can't do it all the time, but I think you've got to keep at it.
It's just something
Mm.
that you have to upkeep, and it's
Yeah.
sometimes it's tiring. I'm not gonna lie to you. Sometimes it's tiring when you yourself don't have a lot of spoons, and somebody's looking for
Yes.
spoons from you. It's not
Yes.
easy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so I do want to open the community. I do want to open Q open, and then exclamation question, and that will teach you how to you can ask questions, and you can join the queue, and then that helps me
Mm.
like filter through them, and only ask Haughty the more appropriate, the appropriate questions, and et cetera, et cetera. So I would love to see some questions. Please be sure, neither Haughty or I, or actually really any therapist that you see on Twitch, is your therapist.
Mm.
So we cannot give you any specific advice if you're going to talk about, hey, a specific scenario. But if you want to ask Haughty about her experience streaming, or World of Warcraft, or things that pertain to specifically her experience, you can also ask me questions. But yes, please go ahead. Dawnstar asked, this is a wonderful first question: Alliance or Horde?
I have a blue heart. We play Horde and Alliance. Hubby's more Horde. I'm more Alliance. I've been
Oh,
playing Alliance for so long. We do play both now because we like more of the storyline. So after all these years, we decided to play both. But no, I have an Alliance heart. I can't get away from it.
oh my goodness. Do you get that? Is that like the $100 question every day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although we play the games now, so we now I'm becoming a little bit more of a WoW plus, a bit more variety, which has been fun. That's been interesting. Um, and that in itself is it's introduced me to more people as well. So as your community grows, and I've grown so fast, I've had to really keep on my toes and try and keep up with everything. And I think that's the other thing too with mental health. You've got to keep up with what's happening. You need to, like, you inspire me. I remember the very first time I came into your stream, and I watched how you handled. You were holding, and I spoke to you about this privately. In my country, in my undergraduate training, we are taught to hold hope for our clients. We are taught to hold hope for people, especially in terms of mental health. It is critical to have hope. If you cannot have hope yourself, allow someone to hold it for you. I can't stress that enough. Reach out and ask for help so that someone can hold it for you until you're strong enough to hold it yourself. It really is critical for mental health. And it doesn't matter what space you're in, whether it's gaming, streaming, whatever. And I remember coming into your stream and you were holding hope for so many people on this particular morning. I was just wowed by it. I just thought, oh my goodness, look at you. You're this fabulous young person, and all these people were coming in with so many issues, so many different unique issues that had impacted. And you opened up the door and you said, tell me what you got. Let me hold it for you. And you just inspired me that day. And you still do. Just thought I'd let you know.
Thank you very much.
I didn't mean to make you cry.
No, it's okay. I cry easily. It's not your fault. That's very kind. Thank you. I, it's, I try to do that. So to see that that resonated with you is very, very important to me. So thank you. And I know you've said it privately too, but anytime anybody says it, you could say it 100 times and I'll probably still have the same reaction. So thank you. So
And what the question was now.
Oh yeah, we do have a few more questions. So the next question is Faven asks, what is your best memory from streaming thus far that's also taught you something about the streamerverse in general? Thank you very much, community, by the way. Thank you, Mala, for in chat for the bits.
Best experience. To be honest, there's multiple. And I put out a tweet the other day that often you don't see what goes on behind. Like we see our visible support crews. You see mods as streamers and you see people chatting in stream and you see people responding on Twitter. But what you don't see is what happens behind the scenes. And for almost 12 months, I've received DMs every week from people saying, my own grandmother rejected me because I'm trans. Thank you for being here for me. And that wasn't replacing as their grandmother, but it was
Right.
you represent someone who didn't accept me for who I was. Or I'll get a DM saying, I've never felt comfortable just fishing in a game and you make me feel comfortable to enjoy WoW this way. Or thank you for getting my pronouns correct. Or thank you for correcting someone who said the incorrect thing for me. I get a lot of DMs from people who don't want to speak publicly. Some people have been lurking in my channel since day one, and they're still here, and they don't speak publicly, but occasionally they'll send me a message and say, I'm still here. I still love this community. Thank you for making it. So they're the sort of things that impact and continue to impact on me. And some weeks I'll get multiple, and they have me in tears because they share what their life is, and then they share how they come to our spaces on Twitch, spaces like yours, spaces like mine, and how they feel a sense of acceptance. And that means the world to them. It can help them build their confidence in moving forward,
Yeah. No,
That's
those
probably one
messages.
of the best things.
It is. No, those messages
Mm.
are what keep you going, especially if you're
Yeah.
having a bad day, knowing that
Mm.
because there are some days where you're like, I can't do this for me. I can't
Yeah.
do this for me. And knowing
Yeah.
that you can
Yeah.
do it maybe that day, not every day.
Yeah.
That's not a good idea. It's not a long-term practice, but maybe that day you can do it for somebody else
Yeah.
who needs
Yeah.
it.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you. So that was a really, really good answer. Faven, also brilliant question. Good job. Really good
Thanks,
job.
Faven.
Team Toad has asked, I tend to keep to myself, and because of anxiety around everything that comes with a big following, do you have any advice on handling being a person of interest, especially on the internet?
Okay, it can be difficult, and as the more I grow, the more I become more aware of being public. I think the biggest advice is be careful what you own. One of my favorite sayings that I use, for example, to my children, if they're complaining about something or they're upset about something that someone has said, I say to them, give that back, that doesn't belong to you. Might be guilt that someone's putting on, that give that guilt back, that doesn't belong to you. It's an opinion. That opinion doesn't count, give that back. And so when you're in the public space, you're often the center of criticism that is not yours. It doesn't belong to yours. They're trying to pull you down, etc. Just be very aware of what you own. Often say we have enough spinning plates, you don't need to add any more to it. So as you grow, just be aware of what you're taking on board and give things back that are not yours, because there's enough that you've got to deal with when you're in the public space, especially if you're growing as a streamer. Control what you can control. Don't own what isn't yours. Give it back.
Oh my gosh. So can you give an example of something that like I shouldn't own? I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. So
I'm going to put you back on the spot there.
Oh, okay.
You just said shouldn't, what you shouldn't. I challenge should and shouldn'ts.
Sure. We call them shoulding yourself.
Yes, because often when you say I should have, that's very quickly followed with a thought, and I'm bad because I didn't. And so, but you don't hear that bit. You verbalize, oh, I should have done this, but behind here, your subconscious is, and I'm bad because I didn't, or whatever. So I take the shoulds out. I'm glad you talk about the shoulds. The shoulds there are some shoulds, you probably should perhaps have a shower once a week at least and things like that. That's
Sure,
good for our
sure.
mental health. But a lot of people say shoulds, um, people I find will, as you grow and you're more popular, for their own reasons, will like to bring you down, to lift themselves up. It's that whole bring a person down, pull
Mm-hmm.
yourself up thing. So just be aware. My husband taught me something very early on, which was look at the mouth it's coming from. When people are critical of you,
Mm.
look at the mouth it's coming from, which means look at their space. It's probably very much not about you, but it's about them. I know I've given you a very long answer to that,
Oh my gosh, all the long
but
answers. I love them. So the
yeah.
the thing is I've noticed this pattern. So as a streamer you kind of grow in little spurts, right? Like you come
Yes.
in and then
Hmm.
you have a big growth and then like you get a
Yes.
sponsorship and then
Yes.
and then sometimes you get a little setback, but the idea is that
Hmm.
you get these spurts and they're
Yes.
big and you kind of if you recognize them, you have to step back and be like, oh, that's new, that's different. Okay.
Yes.
Like there was definitely a moment where like my Twitter grew and I had to step back and be like, oh, I have a different responsibility on Twitter
Yes.
now. It's
Hmm.
not just
Hmm.
me talking to 3 people. This is very
Yes.
different.
Mm.
But what I've noticed is at every one of these spurts, there has been at least one person, either in the larger community or like just in general, who has come around and done everything and said everything in their power to make sure that I know my place, so to speak,
Mhm.
to step me back. Maybe I'm growing, by numbers or whatever, but to make sure that
Mhm.
emotionally I stay right, right, right where they think I should be.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that's just fascinating to me. And I always I like to I love what you said, and I feel like that complements that. I don't want people to like look out for the worst. That's not in any way what
Mm.
I want to be advocating. But I
Mm.
do
Mm.
want to kind of to answer that question, I do want to let you know just because something good has happened and somebody is coming at you to criticize that wonderful good thing that's happened to you and tell you you're doing it wrong does not
Mm.
mean you're doing it right. It does not mean you're
Mm.
doing it right. Wrong. Oh my
Mm.
gosh.
Mm.
Does not
That's right.
actually mean that you are doing it wrong.
Mm.
It could
Mm.
just be
Mm.
that one person, that one voice. And
Yes.
that's okay.
Yes.
And maybe even
Yes.
their opinion is valid in its own way.
Mm.
But
Mm.
that still doesn't mean that at large you're doing the wrong thing.
No. No. Absolutely right. And stick to your original goals. Stick to
Mm-hmm.
your original values. I don't have rules on my channel. I have social values of our community, and I will keep rereading those and keep going back to those. So stay true to what you plan to create. I knew what I wanted to create when I started. I knew I wanted to be a partner when I started. I knew I wanted to bring the knowledge that I have from my professional side into this space in a personable way. So when someone comes and taps you on the shoulder and says, "Hey, get back here," keep going, keep going, because that speaks to them. That speaks to something that perhaps they need to unpack a little bit. You know, and then I know that people's opinions and their feelings are valid, but I made this comment recently about trolls coming in and trying to tear me down because I'm not wanted in this space, is their particular thought. Um, don't 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 weave that into your story of where you're going with what you want to build. Just keep on track. Just keep on track. They're going to keep coming. Mine are increasing. My trolls are increasing, but so too is my resilience. And so if it means I need to keep checking why I'm doing this more often, then so be it. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing.
This is that is making me tear up. First of all, oh you are such a wonderful person. I really wish you didn't have to deal with that. That's number one. For people to come at you and tell you you don't belong in the space. It's really interesting because I've gotten it from a little bit of a different angle of, well, you're not a mental health professional. What gives you the right to
Mm,
talk about mental health or know your place as a non-mental health professional? And both of those are important things to remember. Like, it's not,
mm,
I know I'm not a mental health professional. I also know ethically, even if I was, that there are boundaries I couldn't cross.
mm,
Like, I know those things, and I do need to continuously check myself. Like you said, continuously go back and re-ask yourself that question and make sure you're still on the right path. But
mm.
yeah, just it's just it's a beautiful reminder, and just thank you so much. Just because somebody wants to pull you back doesn't mean that you need to be back there.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, nano, yeah. At each stage, yeah. Next question. Actually, Arcane asks both of you, how has being in Twitch space impacted your professional lives? Have you found that it's renewed or grown your passion for mental health advocacy?
You first.
Oh, no, you first.
Renewed, actually,
Yeah.
renewed.
Yeah.
I have this conversation because people from my professional side have been, now that the pandemic is in our part of the world lifted a little bit, we're a little bit more,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
normal here
mm-hmm.
now, luckily. So people have, come back out of out of hibernation. So what have you been doing, Haughty, since you finished your degree, and how are you going? And I can't quite verbalize, oh, I'm on Twitch now. No one knows. No
Mm-hmm.
one in my life other than my immediate family
Mm-hmm.
and one person that I know from university. No
Mm-hmm.
one knows that I do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at the point where something's going to give, that someone's going to know, someone's going to find it at some point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But now I'm starting to think, okay, is that such a bad thing? Is that such a bad thing? And I had a chat with a lecturer yesterday, just a personal aside, because I'm thinking about pursuing a doctorate. And she said to me, so what have you been up to? And I thought it has to, and I still didn't quite say it,
Mm-hmm.
but I said, mental health advocacy for gamers, actually. And she said,
Mm-hmm.
that's fantastic. She said, what's your interest? I said, othering. My professional interest is in othering
Mm-hmm.
people and the impact that has on their mental health. And she said, how fabulous. We need to talk more. And I hung up the phone and I thought, that wasn't so hard. That actually was pretty good.
Being yourself.
I felt really good about that. So
Yeah.
it's, to me, it's just an extension. And to me, this has given more of a realism to what mental health in a neglected space looks like.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
I think it's both for me. I think it's both renewed and grown. I actually had several friends, ask me when I started this. They're like, "How could you just talk about mental health day in and day out? Doesn't that make you just more aware of it? Like, sometimes you just want to
Mm,
shelve it and not think about it." And I looked at them and I was like, each person, I gave the same answer, which is like, my mental health is not in a state that I can ever shelve it. It is on the
mm,
top of my
mm,
mind
mm,
every
mm,
single day. How I
mm,
feel,
mm,
how I check in with myself. My depression anxiety is chronic, and I
mhm,
had to come to terms with that probably like
mhm.
6 years into my diagnosis of like, oh, hey,
Yeah.
this is not going away. Like for some people, they go through a bout and they're done, but that has
Mm,
not been the case for me.
no.
And so I live with it. Like
Yes.
this is my life. So
Mm, mm,
I am trying to make something positive out of this experience that is otherwise very negative for me.
mm,
And so it's renewed my interest in it. In an ideal world where going back to school doesn't cost what it costs, I would be going back to school to study more psychology. Absolutely.
mm.
So that's not an option for me. And that's okay because I like what I'm able to do within my boundaries with the knowledge that I do have.
Yes.
From personal experience.
Mm,
And in that way, and the conversations that I get to have with people and the honesty that I get to hear from people who live the same life that I do, right? People who
mm,
have
mm,
autism, and that's
mm,
not something
mm,
that's going to go away in 6 months. That's I'm
mm,
going to be neurodivergent for the rest of my life, right?
mm, mm,
And being able to create this space for people to be able to come in and say, "Oh, you have lived experience. I also have lived experience, and I
yes.
am glad to
Yes.
see somebody reflecting that back at me." That
Mm, mm,
renews my passion for it every day, even when the trolls come in, even when the naysayers come in. So it's thank you so much for the
and
beautiful.
it's so valuable. The,
Thank you.
the value in lived experience has been overlooked
Mm,
for decades, and I often say to people, be grateful for the information that you get from those with lived experience, because, there's this people believing that, oh, mental illness has a finite end, or that there is, you live
it's
within
not
the
a flu.
context.
Yeah.
No, you live
Yeah.
within the context of your experience, whether they're symptoms or not. You live your best life within that context, and people have this belief that, oh, it will go here and then it'll go here.
Hmm.
It is just as dynamic, you know.
Hmm.
And I think about lived experience, and we touched briefly on the difference. And Australia has different mental health models, and I won't go too much into it. But you just remind me of something at university, and I don't know if you have it in the United States, but here it's very popular. We have lived experience lecturers, and it has
Mm.
been the most wonderful thing. And I remember the first lecture I had, She Hears Voices. She's one of our senior lecturers at my university. And so they have more and more full paid on campus lecturers. You know, they're part of the curriculum, and they are all lived experience lecturers. And
Wow.
it is amazing. It is absolutely amazing to have them as part of our teachers. You know, they're just incredible people, and they impart so much wisdom than any book could give us, to be honest, in a lot of these areas. So lived experience, kudos to you, because we need to have more people saying this is what lived experience looks like. This is the information I can share with you, and I'm grateful for it. We should all be grateful for it, I think.
That's amazing. Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we have one more question. Do we? Yes. DL Miller asked, what is your favorite video games when you had just started playing?
First started playing ever. Look, the very first one, to be honest, it was Pong. It was the black and white TV with the tennis thing. I was
Mm-hmm.
addicted to that. But no, for me, it was Sim City. I love simulation games, and
Mm-hmm.
so Sim City was like my favorite thing. I'd set up all my little towns and what have you, cities, and I'd leave it on all night. And I'd get up in the morning to see if it had grown, to see if my industry had grown. I love simulation type games, so that was my favorite back in the day.
That's awesome. Oh, that's a great answer. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing to have at the end of our conversation here. Please let everybody know how they can find you, where they can find you, how they can come to your community, what
Uh-huh.
times you stream, all the things about yourself.
Okay. Okay. So look, if you search Haughty Chicken on everywhere, and I'm now on TikTok, I never thought that would come across
Ooh,
my lips, but I'm trying to talk about self-care and mental health on TikTok. So I won't be singing and dancing, just let you all know. But if you search Haughty Chicken, you will find me pretty much everywhere. On on Instagram, someone's got Haughty Chicken. I don't know who's got it. I'd like it back, but I'm Haughty Chicken Gaming on Instagram. But pretty much anywhere. Twitter is where I spend most of my time. So that's where you'll get me most of the time. My schedule is on my About Me page. During the week, I get up at 3:30 in the morning to stream at 5 a.m. so that I can see my COOP members in Europe and North America. And on
wow.
weekends, it's my time, so I stream more at like 8 in the morning and 7 at night. So I stream some really unusual hours, but that's how I get to see everyone.
You're trying to get in with everybody. I love
I
that
don't want to
so
miss
much.
everyone. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So just look at my About Me page. It's probably easiest.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, so there are the links. Thank you. Oh, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Oh my gosh, I look forward to collaborating with you in any other way
Oh, I
that
look
we
forward to it.
possibly can.
It'd be
You know how
fabulous.
to find me. Just at the
Hmm.
drop of a dime, I would
No
love to
problem.
talk if you
Thank you
ever
for
need
having me.
anything. This was wonderful,
And
wonderful,
thank you to your
wonderful.
community. You've been so, so nice,
They
so
they
welcoming.
are, aren't they wonderful?
They're
Oh,
awesome.
and thank
They're
you
awesome.
everybody from your community for coming in and adding to that warmness and wonderfulness. Thank you so much, everybody who's here. All right, we are going to be right backaroo if I figure this out. I have not done this without a stream
Doing it
deck
manually. Oh
in so
no.
long. It's manual. Oh, but I do want to make sure that we do this right. Okay, so oh, and this is broken. This oh my goodness. Well, that's something. That's
Okay.
something. Uh oh no. Okay. All
Oh
right.
no.
Well, you know what? We're going to go into stretch mode, which is totally fine. Thank you so much everybody for being here. I will be right back. Stick around, please.